Welcome to my viewers. Tonight's story is a chilling reminder that danger doesn't always wear a monster's face. It can smile, walk beside you, and offer you candy. This is a disturbing memory from my young childhood. I was about 7 or 8 years old. My mom would usually take my brother and me trick-or-treating, but this particular year, after school, she dropped me off at my friend Sean's house. Sean, our friend Johnny, and I were going to go together. Johnny and Sean were a year older than me. We met while I was playing with my brother on the block. Johnny and Sean lived around the corner from me. Sean had a weird upbringing I never fully understood. His sister was around 20 years old. There was a huge age gap between them. She always acted more like his caretaker. Whenever I was at his house, it smelled strongly of cat, and his sister always had different guys over. She never acknowledged me, never said hi, nothing. There was something cold about her. Sean's dad was never around, and his mom, I believe, worked out of town. I think I only met her once or twice. We never stayed in touch long enough for me to learn more. Anyway, my mom dropped me off at Sean's, expecting that his mom would be trick-or-treating with us. After saying goodbye, I went into the house. Johnny was already there. We each had big pillow sacks to collect candy. That's when I learned that neither Sean's mom nor his sister would be coming with us to supervise. I was young, and it made me a little uneasy knowing Johnny and Sean would be leading, but there was also this excitement, freedom we normally didn't get. I knew for sure my mom wouldn't have approved of us going unsupervised. Still, we headed out into the neighborhood to start our rounds. As we went from door to door, a few people asked where our parents were. Johnny always replied with the same lie that his mom and sister were just up ahead. Somehow that worked every time. It was a Friday, so we didn't start until around 5 p.m. But with no school the next day, we planned to go until our pillow sacks were stuffed. After a couple of hours, we took a break at Sean's place. He heated up a bunch of frozen pizzas. I remember being so jealous of the freedom he had. No parents checking in, no one caring what he did. But now, looking back, I feel incredibly lucky to have grown up with strict, caring parents. We hung out for about an hour, eating pizza and watching Halloween specials on Nickelodeon. Then Johnny's mom came and picked him up, but Sean and I weren't done yet. We wanted to go back out for round 2. By then it was dark, probably past 8 p.m., and there were fewer kids out. We headed down a block we hadn't visited yet. Straying farther from Sean's house, we knocked on doors, but many didn't answer, and most people commented on how late it was and asked if we were alone. That's when we noticed him. A man pushing a stroller a few houses behind us. He was walking slowly in our direction. I assumed he was just another dad out with his kid, but as we went door to door, he kept getting closer. Eventually we could hear him softly going shh and singing quietly. He finally caught up to us and asked, "How's the trick-or-treating going, boys?" We both said good in unison. Then he offered us the rest of his candy, saying he was on his way home and hadn't been able to give much out. He told us his daughter was asleep in the stroller and didn't want to wake her. There was a bag hanging from the stroller handle, filled with some candy, and he said he had more at home. Sean and I exchanged looks like we'd just won the jack. Sean asked what kind of candy, and the man said, all kinds, different bags. I didn't get to give much away because I took my daughter out for a stroll. The stroller was covered with one of those folding tops, so we couldn't see the baby inside. He pointed ahead and said his house was just up the street, so we followed behind as he pushed the stroller, which he was now moving a bit faster. As we walked, I noticed the street was eerily quiet, even for a Friday night. The man chatted with us, asking what part of the neighborhood we lived in, what school we went to, basic stuff. I let Sean answer most of the questions. Being a year older, I figured he should take the lead. Occasionally the man leaned into the stroller and spoke in a high-pitched voice, as if talking to his sleeping daughter. Then he turned back to us and smiled. Eventually we reached his house. He led us up the walkway and unlocked the door. After opening it, he brought the stroller inside and then invited us to come in. Sean stepped in first and I followed. I was the one who asked if we could leave the front door open. He paused for a moment, then said, "Yeah, of course." He told us to wait while he got the candy bags. He pushed the stroller about 10 feet into the living room, leaving us standing by the door. I nudged Sean. I felt uneasy. I whispered, "Why would he leave the candy that far away?" Sean didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked toward the stroller. He lifted the folding canopy to peek inside, and his face changed. He looked disturbed. Then he hurried back to me and whispered, "Let's go." He took off running. I followed, though it was harder because of the heavy pillow sack. I was still confused, but then just as we got outside, we heard a woman's voice. "Hey, excuse me." A neighbor came running toward us. She asked if we knew the man. Sean blurted out the truth, that he offered us leftover candy and was pushing a stroller with a fake baby inside. Goosebumps ran down my spine as I realized what he saw. The woman's face darkened. "That man doesn't have a child," she said. "I saw you walking by with him." She took us to her car and drove us home one by one. Looking back, I know how risky that was, getting into another stranger's car. But we were shaken and just wanted to get home. She came to my front door with me and explained what happened to my mom. After I told my mom everything, she sent me to my room. I could hear her and my dad on the phone with the police. They never told me what came of that call. I think they wanted to shield me from more trauma. My mom forbade me from going to Sean's house again. I know she had a lot to say to Sean's mom. I still saw Sean at school sometimes, and we stayed cordial. But our friendship was never the same after that night. It was Halloween night, 2016. My parents had tasked me with handing out candy to trick-or-treaters for the evening. My mom, as always, went completely overboard. She must have bought 10 giant bags of candy. I already knew we'd be busy with a mountain of leftovers, and I'd be the one mindlessly munching on them for weeks, regretting every bite since I was trying to lose weight. I always told her she bought way too much, but she never listened. We lived in a cul-de-sac at the end of a dead-end street, so we usually didn't get many trick-or-treaters, just a few loyal kids who remembered how generous we were. Halloween fell on a Monday that year, and since I was in college and had no classes Mondays or Wednesdays, I used the first half of the day to go to the gym and get caught up on some assignments. By around 4 p.m., the faint sound of giggles and shuffling footsteps outside told me the trick-or-treaters had started making their rounds. The first ring of the doorbell came somewhere between 4 and 5 p.m. The evening went as expected, me answering the door every now and then while my dog Vato barked like a maniac at every ring. He's a rat terrier, loud but harmless. Between 4 and 8 p.m., I'd say maybe 15 kids stopped by. That was about average for our tucked-away street. Since it was a Monday, everything quieted down much earlier than usual. I finished some homework, warmed up my mom's leftover stew, and headed to my room to binge a few episodes of Game of Thrones. I was halfway into the second episode when the doorbell rang again, unexpectedly. I glanced at the clock. It was 9:30 p.m., definitely past trick-or-treating hours. Vato started barking like crazy again. Reluctantly, I paused the show and headed downstairs to the front door. Standing behind the glass of the storm door was a tall figure, a man in a clown costume wearing an unsettling mask, the kind that makes your stomach twist. I could tell it was a man by his large frame, and he was alone. He silently waved and pointed to a brown sack in his hand. It was mostly empty. I didn't open the storm door. Through the glass I said, "Sorry, we're out of candy," and quickly shut the main door, locking it immediately. As soon as I did, I felt this overwhelming regret. I had assumed it was just a late parent trying to squeeze in one last stop for their kid. But whoever was at my door wasn't a kid, and definitely wasn't a teenager either. This guy was huge. I hadn't brought the candy bowl with me, so he couldn't see that I was lying. I stayed near the door, listening, expecting to hear footsteps fading away, but I didn't hear anything. Instead, the doorbell rang again. Vato went ballistic once more. My heart started pounding. I picked up Vato and turned off the downstairs lights, carrying him upstairs to my room. I was hoping to give the illusion that no one else was home. Once in my room, I shut the door to muffle Vato's barking and stood at the top of the stairs, listening again. Then I heard it. The snap of the storm door's latch being forced open. A loud pop, then a heavy knock on the main door, followed by the sound of the doorknob jiggling. That was the moment dread truly set in. I crept back into my room and texted my family group chat. No reply. I thought about calling one of my guy friends to ask if it was them, but all of them are short, and none had the build of the man I saw. I tried to ignore it, went back to my show. What else could I do? But then another ring. This was becoming a nightmare. I shut the blinds, told Vato to be quiet, and tried calling my dad. No answer. I called my brother. He answered, but sounded preoccupied, probably with a girl. I told him to check his texts, and explained there was a man in a clown costume who wouldn't leave. He brushed it off as a prank and told me to ignore it. I wanted to believe him. It was Halloween after all. Maybe this was some sick joke. Eventually the doorbell stopped ringing and silence returned. I sat on the edge of my bed for a few more minutes, still tense, but I finally began to relax. I turned off the TV and let myself drift to sleep. I couldn't have been asleep for long when Vato's low growl woke me. He was staring at the window. I listened. There was a sound, soft tapping, then a faint rubbing noise. My room was on the second floor. No tree branches, no balconies, no way anyone should be outside that window. Still, I walked to the window and cautiously peeked through the blinds, and I swear I stopped breathing. The clown was standing right there, mask pressed to the glass, his head tilted slightly as if studying me. I screamed, a deep, terrified scream. I don't remember Vato barking. Maybe he did. Maybe I just didn't hear. I sprinted to my parents' bedroom, slammed the door, and locked it behind me. I called 911, hands shaking so violently I could barely hold the phone. I could barely speak. I begged the dispatcher to hurry, repeating myself every few seconds. The police arrived within 10 minutes. They searched the property and found the storm door latch broken, just as I suspected. What truly chilled me was what they found next. My dad's ladder was missing from the storage shed, and was now leaned against the wall beneath my bedroom window. That man had gone into our shed, taken the ladder, and climbed up to the second floor, just to stare at me through the glass. After giving my statement, I packed a bag and went to stay at my friend Adam's house. I couldn't sleep there another night. To this day, I don't know if that was just a sick prank, or the early stages of something much worse. Maybe he wanted to scare me, or maybe he wanted to come inside. All I know is, I'll never open the door on Halloween night again. It was late October, a Saturday night during Halloween weekend. I remember Halloween falling on a Tuesday that year, so most of the parties were happening on Saturday instead. My friends and I were scrambling for last-minute plans, since almost everything was sold out. Ideally, we wanted to find a house party where we could actually show off our costumes. We put real effort into them, and wanted more than a single selfie night. My friend Kate did something none of us would have thought to do. She posted on her Instagram and Snapchat stories, asking if anyone knew of parties going on that night. Personally, I'd find that a little too desperate, but I was secretly glad she was bold enough to do it. Surprisingly, someone responded not long after. She screenshotted the message and sent it to our group chat. It included an address, a start time, and some house rules. No backyard access, bring your own booze, And for whatever reason you had to bring at least one girl for every guy. A little weird, but not unheard of. The guy who sent her the info was someone we kinda knew. An acquaintance from high school who ran in similar circles. He claimed a lot of familiar faces would be at this party, and the house was just one town over, close enough. So the four of us, me, Kate, Shauna, and Tracy gathered at Shauna's house, where we pre-gamed, finished our makeup, and got into full costume. After getting confirmation that some of our guy friends were heading there too, we called an Uber and made our way out. We arrived at the house a little after 10 p.m. There were tons of parked cars and a faint thump of bass coming from inside. The house looked huge, especially with its wide open front yard. We figured showing up as four girls would be a win for whoever was throwing this thing. Inside, the house was dimly lit, with orange Halloween string lights. It looked cool, eerie, but festive. But it was strange. The first thing I noticed was how empty the rooms felt. No couches, no chairs, no decorations aside from the lights, just bare space, and a lot of people standing around. Beer pong tables set up like someone had just moved in. Kate texted our guy friends to check their ETA. Meanwhile, a middle-aged man approached. He introduced himself as John, said he was the dad of the guy throwing the party, someone named Luke. I asked a few questions about Luke, where he went to school, and John just waved it off, saying he was around somewhere. He offered to put our drinks in the cooler and led us to the kitchen. There were 3 massive coolers already filled with drinks, so we dropped our cans in, but something felt off. John seemed way too involved, like he was hosting more than his son. He hovered, smiled too wide, spoke mostly to the girls. At one point he shouted across the room, offering shots, calling mine and Kate's names. It was weird that he remembered them. I asked if all of us could have one. He agreed, and we all took a shot of tequila. No lime, no chaser. It burned. From there I started to feel it fast. The buzz hit me quicker than it should have. We kept playing beer pong with some random guys, and John kept circling back, bringing us drinks, in red Solo cups, asking what our poison was. I took a vodka soda and tried to sip it slowly. I plugged in my phone by the wall, but it never charged. The outlet didn't even work. I remember thinking I didn't want to leave my phone anywhere else in the house. Something told me not to. Eventually our guy friends arrived. I remember talking with Jeff, then suddenly nothing. A complete blackout. The next thing I knew, I was in the back seat of a car parked outside my house. Shauna and Tracy were waking me up, and one of the guys walked me to the front door. I was dizzy, my head swimming, my vision doubled. I could barely remember how we'd left the party. I barely remembered anything. My parents were asleep, so I went straight to my room and crashed. I checked my phone, and that's when it got worse. There were messages from an unknown number. The first text was me saying my name, then came the reply, John, followed by, "You looked so cute tonight," sent during the party. Then hours later, "Where did my favorite girls go?" I had no memory of giving him my number. After that, more texts came in around 2 a.m. "Where are you? I'm coming to your house. You left something here. And then I'm here. Can you come to the door?" He called 3 times after that. I sent everything to the group chat, and the others were horrified. They told me that John had been all over me before we left. They said I looked like a zombie, dazed and unable to walk straight. That's when they pulled me away and decided it was time to go. As we left, 2 police cars arrived, likely for a noise complaint. One of the guys noted how bizarre it was that the house was completely unfurnished, just a big hollow shell. We later tried tracing the number he texted me from. One of our friends said it was a VoIP number, essentially a fake, untraceable phone line. He said someone with my number could probably find out my address. My blood ran cold. No one at the party had ever actually met Luke. We started wondering if he even existed. Shauna mentioned the possibility of John having roofied me, and honestly that explained everything. The way I blacked out, the spinning, the way he kept giving us drink. We went to the police that same day. When we mentioned the house, the officer asked. Was this the vacant house on Aspen Lane? We were confused until he explained that the house had been empty for months. No one lived there. Our jaws dropped. We told them everything, gave them the fake number, shared the texts, and every detail we could remember. A detective took our statements and said they'd investigate. That was a month ago. We've heard nothing since. No updates, no arrests, no confirmation, just silence, and the terrifying knowledge that someone, a predator, lured young people into a vacant house under false pretenses, lied about a son, got involved, possibly drugged people, and vanished without a trace. I still sleep with my phone on loud. I still get chills when I think about what could have happened if my friends hadn't pulled me out when they did. Be careful out there, especially around Halloween. Not every party is just a party. Some are traps. Thanks for watching. If this story gave you chills, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more true horror stories, and drop a comment below. Have you ever experienced something unsettling at a party? Let us know. Stay safe, and don't trust empty houses.